Probably not the right one, but it's okay. Hey, welcome to Senior Tech Talk Unfiltered, brought to you by New Vista Community Services. And this is Eric,
And
my
this is
partner.
Beta.
Yep, my partner over there in Sacramento. How's it going, Beta?
Going well, Eric.
Hey, so we've had a full month of classes at the beginning of the August month. Before we get started, should always make sure that we like to thank our sponsors, the sponsors and grantors who make a New Vista Community Services a possibility. And those, Peninsula Healthcare District, Sequoia Healthcare District, Dignity Health, the Forum Charitable Foundation, East Across, Los Altos Mountain View Community Fund, Silicon Valley Community Fund. I'm sure there's plenty of others that I probably missed. Any others come off the top of your head? Yeah.
Well, also our partners like the V and Eschaton. I think it's great that they partner with us through this.
Yeah. So we got to make sure that everybody thanks or follows us on Spotify. We're now on Apple Podcasts, by the way. And so hopefully we'll get a few more people and followers from over there. Uh, you know, Before we get into this week's subject, it's kind of exciting. We're beta testing our kiosk over there at Redwood City Veterans Memorial Foundation. Ran into a little bit of a Wi-Fi problem, but I got a hotspot that I'm going to go and install tomorrow. It should
Okay,
work a
good.
little bit better. Yeah. It's actually, we're thankful we have, again, great partners and people who can get us stuff pretty quickly so we can work on it. I mean, it's always cost us money, but, we have the technology to make these things better. So, hey, so how was your classes this month? You had a full slate of classes. I had a full slate of classes.
Yeah, and
Um,
the stuff I thought was really engaging were the classes that, in fact, both of us did, it being at different times, for digital legacy, which is
yes.
really part of estate planning. It's just that it's the digital side of it. Because, so many of the things that we do today is forced to be online so that we have to have kind of a digital presence of things. So whether it's our health care and pharmacy and doctor's visits, we have to go to the healthcare portals and all that. Well, then that involves now our medical directives and things like that. And all of that estate planning behind it. And it has a digital footprint. So we have to manage it.
Yeah, much like our emergency prep and disaster prep, if you go to any emergency prep and disaster prep, they're sitting there talking about having water and go packs and what to do in case of an earthquake. And where we teach these classes, we say, well, you know what? What about your digital access, and what about all the digital information you're going to need? It's
Yeah.
kind of the same thing. Where when other people talk about our impending death, right? We're all going to die at some point. But they
Exactly.
always talk about estate planning. They talk about financials. They talk about what are you going to do with your house if you're lucky enough to have one, or your retirement, or whatever else. Right? But nobody ever talks about all the data that's attached to our persona.
Yes. And we actually need our survivors, our beneficiaries to have access to all this stuff. Otherwise, it is a major headache.
Well, it's a major headache. The funny thing is, once we get into it, it's a major headache. It's like it's just, I mean, our data is everywhere and in multiple places. Whenever I do this class, I don't know how you phrase it, but whenever I do this class, and especially part one, because we break it up into two parts. But I do part one, I said, I will guarantee you that you have passwords in your browsers, and I will guarantee you have duplicate data in different cloud instantiations,
Yes.
right?
Like
And they're like,
contacts,
no.
those different things. Yes.
And then they're like, no, I don't even use the cloud. Like, you have a Gmail account? Yeah. Well, you guess what? You're using the
You're
cloud.
using the cloud.
You have an iPhone? Guess what? You're using iCloud.
Yep.
And so it is almost overwhelming when you start diving into it and finding out how much information everyone has about us and where all our stuff is. And so, it's always an interesting conversation when we have these classes.
Yeah, it's a big eye opener, and it turns into some very I put it, deeper discussions. I mean, the things that come up kind of take us off track, but at the same time, they are important and they are related.
So we talked about let's talk about for a second about how much we talked about cloud stuff, right? You have
Right.
a Gmail account, you have a Google Drive. If you have a Microsoft Office 365 account, you have OneDrive. If you have an iPhone, you have iCloud. But there's other people who fool you, or at least try to slide it by you, that they have storage for you. And some of those could be like Norton, right? They
Right.
have their own storage. If you have a Samsung phone or a Samsung appliance, they want you to use their cloud. If you have a Samsung watch, because I have like a Galaxy watch, which and not a Galaxy phone, which is interesting because they still want my information from my watch to go into their cloud,
Yeah.
and so we have all that data out there. And then if you have Amazon Photos or Google Photos or iCloud Photos, we have our memories out there and they're in multiple different places, which in some ways is good because we know we have a backup somewhere, but we just have to know that it's there. And so it's like I said, we have stuff everywhere. And then you mentioned things like contacts.
Yeah.
If you have more than one email account, they're probably trying to store your contacts as well.
Exactly. And whenever we like, activate, let's say, our Gmail on any phone or any tablet, it just automatically engages the contacts from your phone to theirs unless you tell it explicitly not to. And then it's hard to keep it up to date because then you have your clouds kind of arguing with each other. But the worst thing is that we just have all of these pieces everywhere, and now we have to manage that. And we try to teach people to manage it, or try to make it so they're only using one cloud. But when all these pieces end up everywhere, we have to help get rid of it.
Well, we did a class, or you did a class on bringing all your email or all your contacts together in one place,
Yeah.
and there's no easy way to do it.
No, it gets really geeky fast.
Yeah, or you just have to manually do it, and you have to download it, export it, and import it, and
Yeah, but
clean it
some
up.
people have like 1,000 contacts, and that gets really difficult.
I don't know about you, but I don't know the last time I see all these names pop up in my contacts. I'm like, I should get rid of those people.
Oh, I know. I have a lot. I probably have half of my contacts are probably not so useful anymore.
No, 100%, 100%. Um, so let's talk about again before we get into like how to inventory. We talked about emails. We talked about pictures, social media,
Yeah.
and we haven't even touched on social media.
And all of our social media accounts, right? I mean, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or it could be like, I belong to a quilters group. I mean, all these places have media or stories or things that we've shared. And some people would like to have access to that, and whether it's within the group itself or whether it's a family member that thinks that hobby is important to them. How are we going to let people have access to those? And all of that really needs a good plan of execution, and then more importantly, just prepare all that information so it's easy to hand off. And I really think like anything with whether we're talking, going back to my years of preparing things for data automation, right? The preparation for automation is what really brought the most benefits because that's what allowed us to really, you know, get all of our information organized. We give everything one single name for one single item instead of calling them different things in different places. And just going through that process really cleans it up. And the same thing happens here. And if we take that discipline into our estate planning and then now our digital legacy.
Yeah, measure twice, cut once, right?
Exactly.
Preparation. So, yes, this is the challenge. People ask us again when we start this, why do I care? Well, I'm dead. Why do I care? Well, it makes it easier for our beneficiaries or our heirs.
Yeah.
It absolves them, or if we clean it up and they know what to do, there's lower risk of being scammed or
Yep.
having rampant bills going across and bills being continued to be charged. Um, it, hopefully, if we can close accounts or at least memorial accounts or whatever, we minimize the risk of identity theft. Um, and like you just said, it makes our beneficiaries and our heirs, it's a little more easier for them to clean things up.
Right. And if we have all of the, our wills, our codicils, and all those things organized well, then it should express itself in the way we do our digital media. Because everybody's
Yeah.
going to understand what their roles are, what they have access to, how to use it, etc. And you just have all those instructions in the codicils. It's pretty slick.
Let's get people started here because
Okay.
again, it can be overwhelming to
Oh my
figure all
God.
this stuff out. In our classes, again, I tell people it's like, all right, let's just start with your known accounts. Let's just start. Let's look at a couple things. Let's look at all your saved passwords all over the place. And again, I guarantee them that at each one of their browsers, if they use more than one browser, there's probably going to be passwords in them
Yes.
and accounts, and probably multiple copies of the accounts with different passwords because people use different browsers and and they say, how do you get that in there? Because it's really tricky. They say, hey, do you want to save this password? And sometimes we don't read what we're doing and we just say yes, and we save the password accidentally. I mean, I'm guilty of it. I've done it even when I said, hey, I have no intention to save this password. We
Right.
all do it, and so it happens all the time. But you go into your browser, you go to settings, you go to like Firefox, you go to save login, Chrome, you go to password manager, Safari, you can go to the settings and then the passwords or the password manager. Um, that's in the newer computers that comes or the newer devices, I should say, newer Apple devices. They have the password app. But you should go in there and you can print them out or at least look at them, right? And then export them. And I don't know about you, the first time I did this because I was transferring, I can't remember if I was transferring. Oh, I was changing my email address to I changed my email address and had to change all the accounts. So I started there, but it had a good list of accounts to start with.
Yes.
And that way we can kind of check them off. And then you're able to export them in all those different browsers and then be able to at least print them out or at least save it to a file and then start checking things off.
Well, this is why I really like having a password manager because if I can export them from all of those browsers into, basically spreadsheets, right? CSV files, I can then import them into my password manager and they're all in one place.
Yeah,
And
no, I mean, password managers are great. There's a learning curve with them, but let's get to that in a little bit
okay.
because I think right now we just want to inventory, right? I mean, we got to let people know how to inventory, and we also tell people it's not a bad thing to write it down on a piece of paper and kind of hide it somewhere or code it. And at least I think what we want to do is tell people that they should inventory how many accounts they have, which ones are valuable, which ones we should clean up and get rid of.
Right. And that's where I think the password manager is a great tool. But I mean, just having a whole password list,
Yes.
is really important because that just shows you all the darn memberships that you've got.
And that's where we can get started, though, and figuring out our digital legacy and for where everything's out. Um, the other thing is a little bit of knowledge that not everybody has. Just because you, like I said, you have a Gmail account, people don't always realize they have a Google Drive and Google Photos and things that are going in there.
Right.
If you have a Google Photos app on your phone, you have photos going into your photos.google.com account. Or again, if you're doing a backup with Office 365, which is by default, you're using OneDrive and you got pictures up there. If you have the Amazon Photos app, it's going up in there. And so, again, part of this is just investigating and exploring and figuring out what that is where. Because once you have the list of accounts, then you can at least investigate what's in there.
Correct.
And so I think that's the most work for doing any of this stuff is just trying to figure out where everything is.
And it is. It's daunting, or it can appear daunting. So that's why I think the passwords list is a great place to start.
It is a good way to start. And then, like I said, and part of that is almost everything that we have has a password. Almost every account has a password. So, or an account, and a user account. But even things like Nextdoor, which just has an email address and they're sending you a one-time code, there's a password there somewhere, but at least you know that there's an account there. And so what do we want to do once we get the list, right? Let's just say, forget about the password manager for now.
Okay.
Once we get the list, what are we going to do with that list? And that's the question that when people start getting lost is what are we going to do with.
Right. Well, I like to actually just use it kind of like as a checklist to, um, to look at all of the different memberships I have. Yeah, it's kind of straightforward as far as pulling the list together. So, for example, if I did this in my three main browsers that I use, which are Chrome, Edge, and Firefox, I just go in and export those to a CSV file and print it. And then I can
Yeah.
just go and literally just line through everything as I, you know, record it and have it all together.
Well, here comes the tedium because you have to go through those. I mean, there's potentially a few hundred or
Oh,
more
hundreds, yeah.
accounts, and some of which you don't even remember what they were for. I mean, I can go through my list and I'm like, what was?
Well, and
And
that's
this
the
is up.
hard part and the risk too, Eric, because if we maintain a membership on apps, let's say the app is no longer around, right? It's defunct. So that
Yeah,
means that the company or whatever may not keep up with the latest security standards, encryption standards, whatever that is. And then all of a sudden, our information leaks because somebody now hacked it and got into all this data. But if we went and erased that because we actually went and said, "Oh, we're no longer using this app, so I'm going to close my account and have them, delete all the information," it just prevents that.
yeah, and a good example is 23andMe.
Right.
So I don't know if I think they're getting bought or somebody's buying their data or something, but they've given us warning that it's like go out and delete your information, right? If you don't want them to have it, go log in, and of course you have to have the username and password. Go log in and ask to delete your data.
Correct. And I
And
went
and
through that with 23andMe, and it's pretty in depth, all the things you have to go through.
yeah, it's not it's hidden, right. It's a lot of that stuff is hidden, but
Right.
that's a great example of okay, they're again, I don't know exactly where they're at right now with their purchase or the sale or whatever they're closing, whatever that may be. But it's a perfect example because they're not keeping up with any security standard, or they may not be keeping up with security because who knows what kind of staff they're on. And
Right.
so that's just putting our personal information out there for somebody to go grab
Right. And
potentially.
how do we know we can trust the new ownership with our privacy? We don't.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they come up with some kind of terms and conditions and notify us. But the other problem with terms and conditions is nobody reads the terms and conditions.
And they do change.
Well, we did a thing. I'm not going to say the company, but I had to go 4 levels deep to find the actual wording on what they do with their data. And so when I
Wow.
say that, it's like, okay, here's your terms and conditions. Oh, well, click here if you want more information about privacy. You click there. Well, click here if you want to know how we use data. And so you had to keep kind of going down and down and down to figure it out. And so it's can be cumbersome. But that's also again why we have our inventory list is we do should log into the sites that we have a login for.
Definitely.
Um, and then hopefully find a place to delete your data or request it.
But they
You
bury those. It can be hard to find sometimes, but and oftentimes I lean on Google, for this service, for 23andMe. How do I delete my data? And there'll be an article, and I just follow it.
yeah, I mean we've talked in the past about accountkiller.com, which gives you instructions for that stuff.
Yep.
And if worst comes to worst, if there's a contact information or contact email, you can just write, say, hey, how do I delete my data? How do I request to delete my data? At least you have it in writing, and make sure you copy yourself or get a receipt of the email so that people that you've requested the deletion of your data. And
Right.
typically they should get back to you, especially if it's a reputable company. Um, so, there's don't get too frustrated. We hope people don't get too frustrated. But again, when you go out and you delete your data, just again, you log in, you go to your avatar, which is generally almost always in the upper right hand corner. And then you kind of go through your account settings and you look in there on how to delete your data or how to delete your account at the very least. If all else fails, we gotta at least delete our accounts and hopefully, they'll delete our information that comes with it. That comes with it. What else do we have to do? So when we go in there, so we've got our inventory. We're trimming down our list. We're deleting accounts that we don't want. Oh, while we're there, what else should we be doing? You know what else we should be doing?
No, but
Check it, checking our passwords, right? And so, in other words, if we reuse the same 8 character
oh,
password for all
yes,
those accounts, it's a great time to log in there and change their passwords and follow our password methodology.
absolutely. Because
And we
this
should,
way, if you get hacked, they don't know your username and password. Because if you keep reusing the same one, you got hacked. They're going to go to a
yeah.
lot of different places.
And so we'll freshen on our password methodology. It's use passphrases, longer is better, use common words, tier your accounts, um, make sure you know which ones are the most important. The tier ones are the most important, so longer and stronger. Check out our last podcast on passwords where we went in depth on that stuff. But I think more importantly, you have to use unique passwords.
Yeah, just so they don't leak out, right? Like,
Yeah.
so if somebody gets your username and they use the same password, it doesn't work at another site.
Right, right, right. Okay, so let's keep going here. So we've got our inventory list. We've cleaned it up a little bit. We've checked our passwords. We're not reusing any passwords. What do we do next?
Well, of course, we have to figure out how we're going to pass this down, but we also talk about tiering our digital footprint, right? We're
Yeah.
not just going to treat it all the same. For example, I want my physical backups for my drive and my computer, right, to just be thrown away. Just erase that stuff or destroy the drives. It's of no use to somebody who has my actual computer because, right, I want my beneficiary to have my computer and to be able to get into my accounts. But the backups, heck, that could be data that's 10, 15 years old. Nobody needs that stuff.
Somebody asked me the other day, especially with external drives or Windows computers drives. I tell them I don't spend the time wiping them. I just pull the hard drive,
Yep,
and put a drill through it.
that's what I do.
Yeah.
I put like one or two holes in it and that's it.
Yeah. And so that's the easiest, most efficient way to just put a drill through it. Or, if it's a laptop hard drive, you can snap it in half and, do things like that. But
Yep,
yeah, anyways, yes, that's a great point is destroy the hard drives. We say just put a drill through it, and then you can e-cycle it or whatever what you want with it.
right.
Um,
And then most of the things in my cloud, those are optional because I have, photos and all that type of stuff up there in the cloud. But if you have my physical computer, my main computer that I use every day, it has all of my photos, it has everything on it. I wanted to have all the originals on my computer. So you don't really need to worry about the stuff that's in my cloud. You can just delete all that stuff too. But
well, it
some people,
depends. I mean, you have not everybody has all their information on their computer, especially when
that's
they
true.
have a machine that doesn't have enough space. Because space, especially on the Mac side, space is very expensive.
It's really expensive. But I
Yeah,
use external drives for some of that stuff
yeah.
too.
The cloud space is relatively cheap or free in some places,
Yep.
in some instances. But memories are very important. So at least we know where they're at and it's documented. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So then what do we do? So we got all this stuff. We understand where everything is. What are we going to do? We have
Now we
to
have to
communicate.
tell people how to use it.
Yeah. Or what to do. Um, and so just like we have in our estate plan where we say, hey, so and so is going to get this, so and so is going to take care of that, whatever the case may be. We should name somebody that is our digital czar, right? Or
Yeah.
a digital somebody's
Executor, whatever. Yeah.
digital executor, right? Executive of digital information, or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be the same executive. If
Correct.
you're fortunate enough to have somebody that can help you, but
Yeah, because if you have somebody that's more, let's say, computer savvy or whatever than everybody else, it might be a different executor for the digital stuff.
um, hey, new business opportunity for a new business.
People have asked us to help with that. But boy, I
Yes,
really don't want to get past that boundary though
no,
of digital legacy and estate planting and planning. You know, there's so many complexities in estate planning, especially depending on how many assets you manage, right?
yeah,
Um, that we don't really want to get into that, but we can help as far as the digital planning and the digital handoff to our executors and beneficiaries.
yes, absolutely. Follow our step by step guide here.
Yep.
And then each of those accounts could have different, different instructions. Right? I mean, like you said, some of it's like delete, some of it is maybe download, some of it is share somewhere else. But one of this is one of the cool things about like social media or Facebook is that you can memorialize accounts, meaning that your Facebook persona, for example, is still active, but nobody can post on it. But it's
Yeah.
like in memoriam, which is like a living, always ongoing, so long as Meta Facebook is around, tribute to that person.
Yes. And which I think is neat because there's a lot of, shared events, shared photos, all those kind of things that people have on Facebook. And it's almost like, leaving behind our photo albums or scrapbooks or whatever, that people can use. And a lot of times this is people that are beyond our families. It's people that we had as friends or colleagues or we simply just shared, a passion for the same sports team or something, right? And it's nice that they can get to that stuff.
Well, we're planning our, I won't tell you the number because I hate to tell my age, but high school reunion. And so, people are all showing high school reunion pictures,
Right.
and so those will always stay available if you memorialize a social media account. Okay, so inventory, organize, clean up, communicate. Now we can talk about one of the easiest ways to do that is through a password manager.
Correct.
All right, so and let's I want to make sure we see this because there is a learning curve with using password managers. I mean, it doesn't. It's not nearly as seamless as saving passwords in your browser.
No.
Because but also saving passwords in your browser isn't really secure either, and we don't really recommend that, especially for your most important accounts. But the use of password manager is helpful in a lot of different ways.
Right. And I don't like having depending on my cookies for logging me in all the time either. So, I want it to be something that just logs me in very simply, very easily every time I visit the site or visit the app or use the
Yeah,
app.
yeah. There's a lot of things to do with the password manager. I mean, I think in terms and context of what we're talking about, we can create vaults.
Correct.
They all use different terms. You can create vaults, and you can share that vault with a beneficiary or family member or close friend or whoever. And every time you update that password, it updates their end as well. They have access to that account with the updated password. So there's really no, okay, I gotta send you a new piece of paper, or I gotta send you a new flash drive, or I have to do something else.
Right.
So it works real time, and we so far we believe that password managers are pretty secure.
Very much so. I mean, the three that we recommend, no one's really broken into the password side of it at all. And if you want something free to start, then they have more services. It'd be Bitwarden. If you want a for-pay service that works across all platforms, that would be 1Password. And if you're like strictly Apple, and that's all you use is Apple products, then the Apple Passwords app would probably be sufficient.
Yeah. I mean, it again, there is some setup to it, but there is a lot of goodness to it as well. Um, I was just setting up for my daughter and getting her, because they always want my Netflix password or my Hulu password, and I'm
Yes,
like, just look into the vault. I changed it.
that's
Look
right.
into the vault.
I do the exact same thing.
Stop asking me. And so there is a lot but again, expanding to the context of this conversation, it's we keep it up, we have a beneficiary, they have access to all our passwords and our accounts, and the more that we're cleaned up and have a good inventory that is used and put into that password manager, they have instant access.
Right, but I also want to tag on to what you said about how, setting it up and starting to use it can be a little daunting. But once you have it going, let's say whether it's 1Password, Bitwarden, or Apple Password, just logging in to different services, logging in by app, logging in, by app on our phone or our tablet, right? Or
Yeah.
logging into a website on our computers. the password manager kind of just follows us around and says, "Oh, well, you're creating a new account or you're logging into an account. Do you want me to remember it?" And you say, "Yes." And it just starts adding up. So you don't really have to do all of your hundreds of passwords all in one step. Just let it follow you around for a month or two. And it's amazing how quickly it just gathers all that information.
Yeah, that's a great point. But we have to do one more step in there. So this is again part of the complication of it is that if you choose to use one password, or you choose to use Bitwarden, you have to turn off all the other guys who are asking
Oh,
you to save their
yes,
password.
exactly. Yeah,
I
you've
still
got to go and tell the every browser, what your preferred password manager is, and then you have to load the extension for it for that browser.
yeah, so kind of skipped around there, but yeah. So installing a password manager, we have to install an extension to turn off the other people asking you to save your password. We have to go into our browser, into their settings and their password manager, and turn off the question or the ask to save your password into your browser. This gets really confusing though for a lot of people.
Because it's not the same in every browser.
No, but it's also confusing. Who's asking for what? Right?
Right.
I mean, and so it's we probably should just spend a whole class on just what how your passwords get into your browser. I mean, we have a blog out there, but I don't know if it's enough. Um, but we just gotta simplify people's lives because I mean this is the reason why we exist is because everybody keeps all these software companies keep expanding and changing and wanting our information. They put all these different features. Well, Chrome's doing or Google's doing it and ask for for to save a password. Well, Microsoft is too. And guess what? So is Opera and so is Firefox and everybody else. And it's like and then it keeps changing. Oh, do you want to use a passkey? Well, where's the passkey? Do you want to use this passkey? If we just use a password manager and turn everything else off, then we have one area of responsibility and single point of failure at the same time. But you have one place to get
Yes.
all your information, and we
Right,
can
but
turn off all the other noise.
and the single point of failure, I don't think is that much of a risk because everything is kind of cloud backed up with these services. All three of the ones we recommend have a cloud synchronization kind of backup facility that keeps that for us. So even if we screw it up on one device, we can still get back to
Single point of failure. Forgot my master password. That's on us. Um,
it.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
and you do need to like have your recovery stuff all set up so that, A, you can find it if you need it, and B, our executors and beneficiaries can find
so, but yeah, so a password manager is helpful and useful. We have a class on password managers. I think it goes pretty much in detail. People have to come back and check out that class because we'll take it kind of step by step. No, um, but if people don't want to use a password manager, not again, we're talking, some of our oldest folks. Change is hard, and just putting in a password manager isn't kind of a magic potion.
it. Not at all.
Um, that's why we have to go through the list. But there's also one other thing we can do with, at least on the Apple side, which is creating a digital legacy content.
Right, and I really like how Apple's executed this because, especially if I share, let's say, an iCloud account where, I get the largest, the 2 terabyte family account, and I can have up to 5 family members use this, right? Well, then it's really easy for anybody that's within that family membership that's using the iCloud to be a recovery contact for the others. So that if one of us becomes incapacitated or pass away, then the other people that are in our family that are designated to be, they can easily get into our account. Yes, they need proof of our death or proof of our incapacitation, which then is submitted by, this is all through AI and Apple. You take a picture of it and submit it, and it happens rather quickly, so because it's not humans reviewing these things. So I think it's a neat facility that they've done. So this way people can get into all of our cloud info our passwords, our memories, all those kind of things, and then disposition them as they need to.
Yeah, and you can also take that stuff down to the Apple Store and they'll help you
Right.
with that.
And,
I mean,
they won't actually walk you through the same process.
yeah.
But, doing it ourselves is pretty straightforward.
No, no. I mean, if upon passing, if they have the code and the death certificate, they'll open it up for you down at the Apple Store too.
Yes, they will.
Right. It's all this talk about that.
I know.
It's
But
like,
whenever we're talking estate planning and, digital legacy, I mean, that's anytime we're talking legacy, it's about when we're not here anymore.
yeah, and we want to keep everything clean and simple for our beneficiaries and our audience. All right, what else do we have? What else do we have in this kind of realm? This is we broke this up into two parts because there's a lot of information how to do this, and
Yes.
a lot of work to be done. It's not something that can magically happen,
I know so
you
many
know.
of our classes, you can kind of follow along with us in the class and execute it. This is one of those, it's not. This is more like a roadmap that you can then take home and then follow the roadmap to get things organized. And then the step two, follow the second roadmap to actually put things in a very organized digital format.
Yeah, and remember, it doesn't have to be done overnight.
No.
Right?
And
It's
like I
just
said, my favorite thing, like, when I put on a password manager, just let it follow me around for 2 months. And now it's becoming very useful and very accurate.
or closing accounts.
Yes,
Just do a couple every week or whatever.
right.
Right? And just kind of close down because again, we're at risk for a lot of different areas, which is when all that stuff is out there. And I like to use the quote that 4 companies a minute are being hacked. So it's not always our fault that things are being leaked.
Right.
Uh, but the more accounts that we have out there that have our information, the more risk that we are presenting to ourselves.
Exactly. Because then people can, take those things and use it against us, unfortunately.
All right. Any other things that we need to talk about here with digital legacy planning? I know that something that we should all do.
Yes, exactly. And it's not something that's necessarily fun to do, but again, especially for us that, have to manage some assets and things, it's really important to do it the right way. Otherwise, it has some big implications, what in probate court and, in family law, all that kind of fun stuff. And you just don't want to run afoul of those things.
Fun stuff. Yeah. Probate, fun stuff.
No, thank you.
All right, so we're gonna try to we're gonna try to do these podcasts a little more regularly. We're in starting August 2025 already. Any classes or things that we're looking forward to or kind of new content that we've got coming up?
Well, I'd like to talk about some wallet stuff and like the, things that are coming up. Like finally in California now, we can put our driver's license in our digital wallets. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
that's
did it.
that's I did too, and it works really well. And what is it like once a month we have to refresh it, and it's all automatic. It goes really quickly.
Oh, I haven't refreshed mine, so I better go check
Yeah,
mine.
every once in a while I pull it up and it says, "Oh, you need to refresh it." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. We have, Google account settings is going to be, we take some of that stuff for granted. Um, we haven't done, we're doing some buying guides, TVs. I gotta tell you, I bought this little 42-inch cheapy TV.
Yes.
Won't tell you the brand because we're not promoting brands. Literally cost me, it was a 40 inch or 42 inch. It was Fire TV, Amazon Fire TV. Cost me like $150
Oh
during
my
Prime
word.
Days. So I'm like shocked about the color and the picture of this TV.
Yep.
Um, but there's a lot of things like, is it Alexa enabled? Is it Fire TV enabled? Is QLED, OLED, Q dot, LED,
QD
whatever.
OLED, right?
Yeah, and so we're gonna decipher that. That's always a fun class. And then we just got a whole variety of classes this coming month. So you guys listeners can listen and find a class at ANVCS.org. A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, V as in Victor, C as in Charles, S as in Sam.org. ANVCS.org. Anyways, so we got a full month. We're starting right off tomorrow at the Veterans Memorial Center. Again, that's where we're putting our kiosk, or we have our kiosk out there, and we'll put in new Wi-Fi out there just dedicated to that kiosk, and hopefully we get a lot of usage out of that as well.
Yeah, I'd like to get the feedback from our users on that. That'd be great.
Yep. All right. Anything else that we want to chat about tonight, or I think we're about it.
I think that covers it.
All right. Digital legacy planning. Make sure it's part of your estate planning. Check us out at anvcs.org. Thanking our sponsors one more time. Painesville Healthcare District, Sequoia Health Care District, Dignity Health, El Camino Healthcare District, SVCS, Los Altos Mountain View Community Foundation, the Rotary, the Forum Charitable Foundation, the Health Trust, Touchpoint, Comcast, and then our partners, our facility partners, Eschaton, the V, Painesville Family Services, City of Milpitas, Burlingame Parks and Rec, City of Mountain View, Indian Community Center. We're around a lot, and
Yes, we are.
it keeps us busy on our toes. All right, Veda. Thanks for joining this podcast. We will get another one going here in another week or so. But everybody who's listening, thank you. Follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Veda, have a good night.
You too. Good night, Eric.
All right.